Whoa! All right. Sunday night chat. Welcome. So I actually wrote some notes here. Basically, just going to kind of mostly talk about this past week. All kinds of things have come up. Of course, look, this is political season. We have an election around the corner. Don't believe everything that you want to believe because it makes you feel good when you hear it. I did that video, that TDS video, because that woman I ran into and was talking to her. And I recommend you guys read the comments in my videos because overwhelmingly they're pretty positive. I have to remind you all the time, I'm not hung up on being right. I don't think I'm always right. I'm just sharing what I think. I'm not sharing what I think because I think you should think what I think. You heard? I'm just putting it out there because I keep running into people that are speaking as if they're telling me what they think. But I know it's not what they think. I know they're just repeating what they heard. You heard? So it's a friggin' problem. I got this one clown, you're probably watching. He's been sending me these emails with left-wing propaganda as if he doesn't think I've read it already or looked at it. I know what it is. I looked at it. I'm well aware of what's going on. Up until the 2020 election, I was what you would call a political wonk. I used to watch everything. CNN, MSNBC, listening to, NPR on the radio at times, which was, makes me want to kill somebody because they just lie all day long. They don't have a rebuttal. They got one point of view. That's it. You can say whatever you want to say about Fox, and I'm not watching that either. I watch one show on Fox. I tell you all the time, it's the Gutfeld show. Just Gutfeld. Watch that. It's very funny, but they do touch on all the topics. The thing about Fox is it's mostly real news, but then they have a lot of opinion shows on there, and this looks like it's all crooked. But when they have guests on, or if they have shows that have multiple personalities, they always have people that have different thought processes. They come from different places. They'll have liberals on. They have a lot of libertarians on. They have Republicans on, and they have conservatives. Those are not both the same. But it's the only place in cable news that's on like television where they allow a conservative viewpoint to be heard and not attacked. That's the difference. Back in the day when it was just CNN, I remember when Fox came on and CNN was disparaging Fox all the time. And CNN was my go-to, man. That's what I watched. That's what I was watching, 2000, 2001, Towers, all that stuff. But the constant berating of Fox News, what that did to me was it made me think, well, maybe I should watch Fox News instead of being told what to think and feel. Because my brain works differently than most people. When people are telling me something about somebody else, I'm like, okay, I hear you, but I'm not going to then go off into the world thinking the same way you do about that person. If you're my friend, I'm your ally. So if you got a problem with somebody, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to be on your side, but I'm going to have an open mind because if I don't have an interaction with the person you have a problem with, it's hard for me to fully accept what you think about that person 100%. Because if I start talking to that person, I might find my personality jives with that person. Maybe I'd understand their point of view when it comes to you, even if you are my friend. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't have a tribal mentality. This is the Astro Van Tribe channel. We got to change that at some point. And by the way, I need your help. I need your help. Everyone watching now, everyone who's subscribed, I need your help. We need to turn this channel into something big, really big, so it can generate enough income so I can afford a hair and makeup person, because this is ridiculous and I know it. All right. What did I write down here? I actually wrote some notes this time because there was a couple points I wanted to make and I didn't want to forget them. So there's a thing I say all the time. I forgot to look at the watch. I just did a review on this, by the way. I actually opened it up, took the movement out, and cleaned the back side of the crystal because it had like a milkiness to it. Now it's awesome. But so watch that. Um, None of us knows everything. Most of us don't at the time. Somebody made a comment in that TDS video I did. There was a few of them. You know who the people at TDS are. You could see it in the comments. They have a real problem with what I was saying. And some of them are trying to be, they're really snarky about it. There's like, they're trying to come off as cool, but the way they're wording things, they definitely are coming off like they have a superiority thing with the way that they're wording their comments. Somebody wrote, like, you probably don't have enough time to research all this. I got all the time in the world, dude. I'm not married. I got no kids that I know about. My time is my own. But as I was saying a moment ago, up until about the 2020 election, I used to put a lot of time in on this. And after that election, I was just, because I don't believe it, I think there was just a lot of underhanded bullshit, personally. It's just how I feel. When I say these things, by the way, I don't expect you to think the same way I do about it. You can have a differing opinion. I know that if you have a differing opinion, and if you happen to be coming from the left, you're going to let me know in the comments because you can't help yourself. And you out yourself, so it's kind of funny to me. That's fine. But I looked at the whole pandemic thing as, these giant entities, whether it be big pharma or companies that support the military industrial complex, or, unfortunately it's mostly the left and rhinos who are in bed with the media and all that. All these people that were doing all these nefarious things and underhanded deals and the crony capitalism and everything they were doing to line their own pockets with money and to gain power and to set themselves up with positions after they get out of government, all these things were losing money because of Trump. And so that's what I believe. I believe that that whole pandemic thing was really a setup to try to take him down, to make things bad in large part so that they can rig an election. That's just what I think. Now, you don't have to agree with me. That's fine. And even though I think that, I'm not militant about it. I'm like, okay, we let it happen. We'll see what happens next time, But after that, I just lost the vibe for it, the taste for it. I have a bad taste in my mouth now, which is also a way for them to win, because that's what they want to do. They want you to throw up your arms and give up on caring, because they've distracted you with so much bullshit. When you send me something and it's left-wing propaganda and it says, X amount of military officials say this, and it's against Trump, let's say, for the sake of this discussion. Okay. Who are those people exactly? What are they? Like, are they still in office? Did they get fired by him? Like, this thing that this woman said to me, because we know it's fake. Excuse me. I think it was Trump was like at a, where was he? He was at like a cemetery, maybe in Europe or something. And so there's this BS story out there. I think the Atlantic published it. And that Trump called our veterans cowards or whatever. Not true. It's not true. There's no proof of it whatsoever. There's no audio of it. There's no video of it. Today, with all the cameras around and all the news people and all the cell phones, you're going to say he said that with zero proof whatsoever. You're just going to rely on what somebody told you. And the one guy that they said that supported it was some general that Trump fired. It's fake. So my question to those of you that want to believe these things is, did you not pay attention when the Russian dossier was proven to be fake? Everything in that, not a single thing in there is real. Were you not? So for years, the people that you still listen to today that are still lying to you, the ones that still have jobs, because a lot of them have been fired. CNN, they fired a lot of people over the last couple of years. I don't know if you've been paying attention. MSNBC won't do it because they're just, that's not even worth listening to. It's total, it's not even propaganda at this point. It's crazy. But for years, people told you that there was, I forget what the number was. They used to throw this number out, 30-something or 60-something or 80-something or hundreds. I don't know what it was. Agencies signed off on the Russian dossier as being a real thing. And then it turns out it's all fake. Well, what happened to all those people? Why aren't they all fired? Some of them have been, actually. What happened? What happened? They lied. They lied to you. They lie to you all the time. They lie to all of us every single day. Every single day they're lying. When it gets proven to be a lie, and you keep going to the same source that lied to you, you got to ask yourself, why am I still going to the same source? The whole shooting thing, right? The assassination attempt. How come there isn't some major investigation? Why don't we know everything about this guy? Inside job, man. Again, don't expect you to believe what I think. You don't have to accept my premise, what I'm putting out there, but that's an inside job, man. Was it the FBI? Was it the CIA? Was it somebody who controls the Secret Service? Inside job, man. That was a setup to kill the man. All right, we know now CIA killed JFK. We know now the CIA was behind getting Nixon out of office. There's all this stuff that's coming out now. Just because, this is what's crazy to me, because the sources that you rely on for your information haven't covered any of the three things I just mentioned in detail, you don't think it's real. But those same sources have been lying to you about all these things, like the Russian dossier, or like Hunter Biden's laptop, or they're not covering the thing about Biden with all the money laundering and everything else was going on during the Obama administration. So and I can go on and on and on. That's not what this channel's about. That's not what this video is even about. I'm just trying to make a point. Now, we're all ignorant about something, and ignorant, if I say you're ignorant, I'm ignorant. I'm ignorant about a lot of stuff. But ignorant isn't actually a bad word. My definition, this is my own idea, ignorance is basically a combination of two things. There's a lack of curiosity combined with laziness. How much time do you really have? And the reason why I don't mind talking to the negative comments, or when people say something I'm pretty certain isn't actually correct, is because I do it all the time. I don't back away from it. I walk into people's homes all the time, complete strangers that are multi-millionaires, rich, some of them are famous, right here where I live. I go into their house, they want to hire me to design and build something for them. I have no idea who they are as a human being. They got Teslas and Land Rovers, and they got giant friggin' house. It's opulence everywhere, dripping off the walls. They bring up the politics, not me. And I listen to them, and I've said this before, 3 hours will go by. And I'll ask them, how often does this happen? Some guy comes into your house just to talk to you about a job, and you talk to them for 3 hours about it. Never. Every single one of them. Same answer. This has never happened before. And eventually I get them to the point where they admit they just didn't know enough about that subject. And then I let them off the hook. I said, that's all I needed to hear. But it's not your fault. You're in a bubble. You don't have it. Look at what you built. Look at what you're doing. Look at your family. You've got way too... I've got none of that. I got all the time in the world to look at everything. So if they're busy working all day and they hear some NPR, at some point after dinner, they put TV on for an hour, watch some cable news. Maybe there's some memes going around amongst them and their friends. They're all working hard too, so they're only getting these snippets and sound bites here and there. They look at articles online, but they really just read the title. They don't read the article, maybe the first couple paragraphs. Let me tell you something about even the left-wing stuff. Right-wing, doesn't matter. There's a title. There's paragraphs that want to kind of support the title, but by the time you get to the last paragraph, usually the last paragraph rebuffs everything that they said above. They don't expect you to read that far. Do that experiment for me, please. I did videos pointing this out before, years ago. I don't even do it anymore. My point there is, about why I don't do it anymore, is I could do this. And I think the channel would actually do very well if I spun it in that direction and just started looking at things every day and took it down. Just like, here's why this is a lie. Boom, boom, boom. Here's what they said. Look, hey, no sources. They say, independent sources say this, or, an anonymous source. Who? If you don't tell me who it is, I don't believe you. It's bullshit. Easy to lie. They make up lies all the time. And if I was to sit here and do this, if this was my job, if I made this my job, by now I'd have a list Actually, I do. Actually, on my hard drives, I used to save this stuff. So I have saved a lot of it. I just don't. The reason I don't do it is it would make me unhappy. I would be not a happy person. Like my buddy Sabo. Now, I'm friends with this guy, Sabo. He's been in the news lately. He happens to live in Aurora, Colorado, where the gangs are, right? Venezuelan gangs, MS-13 and everything else. We go into apartment buildings, taking them over. This is all real footage. It's made news now across the world. Now we're at the point where the Hells Angels and other three-patch motorcycle clubs have made public announcements to gangs throughout the country saying, cease and desist, motherfuckers. We're at the point now where three-patch motorcycle gangs are this close to just start taking out these bullshit gangs. That's awesome. Welcome to America. Like, I never liked three-patch clubs personally because they invent their own bullshit and believe it. And they got all these rules that tell you who you can and can't talk to and what you can and can't do and the prospecting, all the other bullshit. Never for me. Enough of that shit in the core. But I'll tell you this. If that starts happening, I'm thinking about buying a Harley and prospecting with the Hells Angels just so I can take out those scumbags. Not the Hells Angels, the Venezuela gangs. Anyhow, Sabo's in Aurora right now, and, you know, he's been doing his thing. He's been doing his art, which is satire and hysterical if you have a sense of humor. But the chief of police in Aurora has come out, and they're making it sound like they want to put the guy in jail. Nothing he's done is permanent. It's hurt. It's butt hurt some people. But if you look at what the meaning is and the imagery that he's putting out there, it's a wake-up call. It's like he's throwing in there the absurdity of what they've been putting out there for the whole country. He's throwing that in their faces, making them have to see it. And that's what they don't like, and that's why they're angry. But meanwhile, they're letting the city be taken over by gangs of dudes that walked across our border illegally with no checks whatsoever, and now they're committing crimes and murders and everything else in the country. So I'm just saying, I'm a little bothered by it. I don't know how you feel about it. Maybe you're okay with that sort of thing. I'm not okay with it. Trump had the border pretty well secure. These guys, no. Come on in. Come in. Border czar, by the way, real thing, border czar. You can look it up, 2021, her name on the paperwork, titled from Congress as the border czar. That's a true thing. The left tried to make it sound like that's never what her job was, but it's in writing in Congress. That was her job. And she could say now, okay, it was built back better when they started. Now they're saying they're going to fix all these mistakes, and they've been in there for 4 years. They haven't done anything. So I'm done with that. All right. So I just wanted to throw all that out there. But I want to point out how I'm going to use our favorite YouTuber, Sarah Wonder Hussey, about how, like, you can read something that jives with your thought process already, and then you're only kind of looking at it from confirmation bias in a way, so that's what you believe now, without any other further investigation. Because she did 2 videos on Bigfoot. I'm a big Bigfoot aficionado. For those of you that don't know, I got some videos on it. I had my own experience. I was only a few feet away from one of these things. Changed my life. Scared the crap out of me. I didn't go back in the forest for 20 years. And I know they're real. And she was talking about the Patterson-Gimlin film. And she read an article. Some guy said he bought a suit. Some guy said he sold the suit to the guy. And, you know, so that's what she wants to believe. And I'm not knocking Sarah, by the way. She came here. We did the Hollywood sign hike, which she should probably be posting that video up maybe this upcoming week or in the next couple of weeks. I'm pretty certain she's going to make me look like a fool. She's really good at that. And I don't mind. It's funny to me. In that video, we'll see how that goes. But we were talking about the Bigfoot thing, and I was explaining things to her, and she was like, oh, like she didn't know. She's just going with that story. And so people will say it's a monkey suit, and they had extended hands in there. No. If you're interested in Bigfoot, look up Thinker Thunker on YouTube. He covers it all. But what's really interesting is they talk about this like it's a suit, but the technology for a suit that did the things that you see in the video did not exist. Now, bear with me on this real quick. First of all, a lot of the footage that you've seen is not the best footage. It's not the clearest view of the footage because it was screenshotted from television and other things. You need to get the original footage of it. It was actually shot on film. I think it was shot on 16 millimeter film. I could be mistaken, but I think that's correct. Recently, the original film has been gone through digitally to give you the clearest visual of it. Even before that happened, we already saw better footage of it where you can see muscles flexing and moving, and it looks like she actually has a muscle blown out on her thigh. That's a female Sasquatch with breasts. You can see the hair. What else he's looking at? She doesn't see the breasts. Clear as day to me. I can see them. So it's what you want to see. You do it in your own mind. And the technology for a suit like that did not exist at the time in the 60s. Anyhow, you just couldn't do it. And I'll give you an example. The Empire Strikes Back. Right? There's like the third part in the trilogy that came out. 77 was Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi. Or was it Return of the Jedi, then The Empire Strikes Back? I can't remember them all in order because I'm not that big of a nerd. But when you watch The Empire Strikes Back, I bought it, the DVD, and I watched it. I was so disappointed I wanted to shut it off. I can't believe how much I enjoyed it at the time compared to now. You know why? Ewoks. If you look at Star Wars, the originals, the 3 original movies, it was renowned for their effects. The way that they did things, right? They made the spaceships and everything look old and beat up, which made them look real, and it was all really cool. They went to all this trouble with the effects. And then you look at the Ewoks, it's so bad. It's so fucking horrendous and horrible. I can't even believe it. I can't believe nobody, maybe people talked about it at the time, I wasn't paying attention because I'm not that big of a nerd. So when you look at that, and I encourage you to look at it, it literally just looks like children and or dwarves, which is probably both, wearing pajamas, wearing hairy pajamas, which would be a suit, like a gorilla suit. There's no muscle tone in those. It literally, you can see it. It looks like they're wearing feet pajamas with a helmet mask thing on. People talk about the Planet of the Apes. There's no gorilla suit in the Planet of the Apes, people. Planet of the Apes was won awards for its makeup for the facial mask to look like an ape. Had nothing to do with the body. The only thing they did was learn how to kind of walk like they could be believable as an ape. I walk around like that all the time. They all had long sleeves on, they had hair on their hands and makeup, and they painted their fingernails. They wore boots that had that toe shaped in it on the side like a hand, like a chimpanzee would have. That was it. They were, and by the way, most of them didn't have great makeup. All the background just had the gorilla mask on that didn't move. It was just the main characters where they had the tight shots, where they had the really good makeup on them. Bigfoot / Sasquatch doesn't have a gorilla face. It has a human face. So I'm just putting that out there. There's tons of evidence. You don't have to believe it. You know, again, don't want you to just accept what I'm telling you. It's some woman made a comment. She said, "You sound like what you say is the way it is." I'm paraphrasing. And I had to say, and she said something else. So I said, wrong. I said right in the video. That's not, you know. So again, there's some people, it's not just women. I'm not always ratting on, you know, I love women. I do. There are certain people, both men and women, that can annoy me, just like you. You have the same issue I have. There's not a person watching this video that doesn't have a problem with anybody. Like there's somebody in their life that they've encountered that they find annoying. It could be me right now. You might think I'm the most annoying person on the planet. Fine. It is warm today. I had to put a bandana on when I was doing the other video because I was dripping sweat. So, I just wanted to throw all that out there. When I mentioned Thinker Thunker, he did this really cool, but there's been plenty of other studies on the Patterson-Gimlin film, and they do a skeletal structure, and they show that the knee swivels when it walks. Humans, when they walk, they don't bend the lower part of their leg at 90 degrees. Like if you watch anybody walk, you're not going to see them lift their lower half of their leg up to where you can see the whole bottom of the foot. But Bigfoots walk that way. And they also swivel around with their legs. And that they walk, you look at their tracks, they kind of almost look like they're walking in a straight line, not necessarily next to each other. It's almost like they're walking on a tightrope. It had a whole different physiology to their structure. And Thinker Thunker came up with proportional DNA. So he could take anybody in a suit, any other human, or these pictures and video footage and everything else of actual Sasquatch, and he just draws a line from the base of the neck to the pelvis. He draws lines from the hip joint to the knee, from the knee to the ankle, from the shoulder to the elbow, from the elbow to the end of the hands, and he compares that. And I forget, it's like the Bigfoot has a torso that's torso and arms that are, I think, 20% longer than any other human. I think that's correct. But watch it so you know. Again, don't rely on what I'm telling you. I misspeak all the time. I say the wrong thing all the time. Not my responsibility if you repeat things I'm saying that are incorrect. You shouldn't do that. If anything I say you find curious and interesting and you want to know more, find the time and do your own friggin' research. Don't rely on me. Don't rely on the media. And let me tell you something. This goes all the way back to, I was a history guy, big history buff. Grew up in a house where I'm hearing history all day long from my family and everything. History that they actually lived through, including my dad in World War II and all that stuff. And I grew up in New Jersey, one of the original 13 colonies. History all over the friggin' place, man. We would go on school trips and they'd take us. Paul Revere slept here. George Washington slept here. This happened here. It was right there. Create a spark in my mind, you know. It was interesting with Fox News. I remember watching, and I remember in 2010 specifically, I had a bad motorcycle accident. And I broke both my wrists, but this one was really bad. I have a cadaver bone and a plate in this wrist. I have a scar going up my wrist here. And I didn't really need that much help, but people came out of the woodwork, and women mostly. Excuse me. And quite a few of those women were lefties. They're not all bad. They care. So, funny story. I wasn't going to mention this, but it just cropped up. We were talking about stuff. There's this woman. I didn't know her very well, actually. I used to hang out with these guys, the Cretans, a motorcycle club. They had a great clubhouse. We had great parties, and she was somebody. She had moved to Silver Lake, and she went to some of the parties. Real cute, killer figure on her, man. I'm just saying, as a dude, I know women hate when I do this, but giant boobs, man. She just had these, but she was petite and curly hair, quirky looking in a way, but attractive. Not model good looking, comic good looking, you know. And she was a comedian working towards that, wanting to be an actress and everything. And she offered to come over and help me out. I have told the story before, and I'm not going to get into the pervy part of it, but there were some pervy parts of it that was fun for me. But as far as this subject, we were talking about things and government and politics and whatnot, and she didn't believe anything I said. And at the time, O'Reilly was on there. And I used to DVR it to cut through the commercials, so I'd have it on the DVR. We would talk about something, or we'd watch that together. And she said, that's not right. So I'd pause it. I said, well, let's look it up. We get on the computer, we'd look it up. We'd look up different sources. And she discovered that he was actually saying the truth. Even better was Glenn Beck when he was on, because Beck had people on talking about history. Wall builders, I forget the guy's name. He's a religious guy. But he was talking about the American Revolution and a lot of wild history from the time. And I looked up his stories and discovered that they were all true. And I was doing that with her. And what happened with her was, because we were friends on Facebook at that time too, and maybe even MySpace at that time, but she started posting the truth. And then she came over one day and she said, Mike, we can't do this anymore. I can't post stuff. I can't talk about it, because she was losing her friends. And she discovered that she didn't get a job because of it. And she was afraid it was going to hurt her for establishing a career here in Hollywood as a comedian, actress, and model, or actress, comedian. So she had to walk away from the truth because of friends and career. That's the left. So that, to me, that's a problem, all right? And that's a real life experience that I can explain to you. What else did I write down here? I guess that's pretty much it, really. I guess I just wanted to quickly mention, just throw this out there because of the VA stuff. Sorry that this is like a thing on that. I don't want these videos to be about this, but this past week, after I posted that video with those comments, and then people starting to send me propaganda in my email and everything, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to address this stuff so you guys can understand where I'm coming from. It's not going to work on a lot of you. You're still going to keep watching CNN and MSNBC and listening to NPR and just believing it. I just gave you examples of where they're lying to you and why you shouldn't. But that's fine. You can keep doing it. But do me the favor of stop trying to change my mind, because I know what they're saying, because I pay attention, and I know what I think because I've done my own research on things. And I don't have to watch it anymore either, really, because I know what the reality of the situation is. and that by the way, that thing with Trump too is, for me, it's all job performance. And I can rattle off all the good stuff that happened, compared to how we're living now after the last 3.5 to 4 years. So if you just look at that, if you could separate yourself emotionally and just think logically and do a pro and con on job performance and numbers and all that, just the facts, man. Trump wins in those columns. I don't see how you see it any other way. You're going to post something, or you're going to tell me something that's going to be lies. I know you're going to do it. You're going to say that all these other things that are all coming from the left, but it's easily debunkable, so don't waste our time. It's a waste of time. Back to the VA real quick, because I didn't get into this. I said I was going to do a separate video, but I'll just mention it, because that's what this Sunday Night Chat has become. It's really just about my life, I suppose. Also, just on the watches, I do have to stop buying watches. There's one or two other watches I want that, unfortunately, they cost a decent amount of money, and I've shelled out too much cash. I've spent a bunch of money on the van, got rent to pay, just sent my nephew $1,500 to get him out of my house. So he found an apartment in the next town over, down there nearby, so he'll be out of the house by the 15th. And I'll start going to the house in Arizona to remodel the house. So the channels will take a turn here, because you'll start seeing remodeling work there, and what I'm going to do with the yard, with the plants and everything else, building a structure there and everything. I think you guys will really enjoy that. The goal there is to move there. But I back to this VA thing. I was talking to, in the last couple of days, I spoke with my old drill instructor from the Corps, and I talked to my buddy Dave, who was in the Army, retired out after over 20 years in. And he did Afghanistan multiple deployments, Iraq multiple deployments, all that stuff. Worked with the CIA, all this stuff. It's badass, cool dude from Jersey. And a thing happened with him with the VA. We ended up getting this back pay thing. And we started talking about that. And then I was explaining to him what happened to me when I went to talk to this doctor about my ankles. Now, it turns out the guy's name is Rodney Tyson. And he was an old black guy, big dude, really nice guy. He's like, oh, you're East Coast, me too, Brooklyn, blah, blah, blah. We start really getting along. I guess now that I said his name, I shouldn't have said his name, because he told me some personal stuff about his family that he's unhappy about. And I said, well, you want me to go talk to your kid? I'll have a word with him. And it turns out he's the older brother of Mike Tyson. He told me before I left, you should look me up. I think you'll find it interesting. But he didn't bring any of that up himself. He was really cool. But when I went in, he had my records up already. And I brought mine with me. In 2007, my buddy Dave tried to get me into his unit that was doing provisional reconstruction teams. So even though I have this ankle issue, I had my left ankle surgically corrected. And I've been able to do a lot of things, but I can't do everything, and I do have issues. I've always had. It's kept me from having a real job. It's the reason one of the big reasons why I ended up working alone. Marine Corps messed me up mentally, where every time I'm working with somebody that gives me some kind of grief, I just instantly want to rip their head off, which is not I was never like that. And the other thing is that I really can't be on my feet too long, or I can't, like the injury I had on the movie set where I blew my ankle out in 1996 was because we're wearing tools all day long, and that just fatigues me too much. So you can't get a job doing what you do for a company or for somebody else and be expected to keep that job if you can't keep doing it the way everybody else is doing it, because physically you're broken down. I can do it for myself because I can take breaks. I can keep my work day to 4 to 6 hours or something. You can't do that if you're working for somebody else. The reason I can do what I do the way I do is because I know what my limitations are. I read my body. I know when I start feeling a certain way, I got to stop for the day. I just know that. Also, the barefoot shoe thing totally changed my life, right? So I go in and we talk about all that stuff. He was super cool. And there was this thing that happened, excuse me, when I tried to get into the Army unit with Dave. They didn't take me because my paperwork for my medical separation from the Marine Corps blamed it on my right ankle. It was my left ankle that I had surgically corrected. I have a scar that goes down the whole side of my foot here. I don't know if you can see it on screen, right here. It's a ligament reconstruction. It's a good 8-inch scar here. So they cut one of the tendons, they leave it attached, they take half of it, they drill a bunch of holes through bones, weave it through, reattach it near the Achilles there, and that gives you your stability in your ankle that your ligaments are supposed to give you. Well, he said to me, he said, look, Mike, he says, the guys that had issues while they were in and went to the infirmary are the guys who end up doing really well getting a disability benefit, because there's a record of all the injuries. It turns out, and I never thought about this, I have a ton of that. Several times in boot camp, several times in infantry school, several times while I was at SEAL Beach as a security forces Marine. So there was a point in time in boot camp when we did the 5-mile ruck out to individual combat training. That's when you're going to do the rifle range and everything too. But you throw hand grenades and it's awesome. It's combat training. And I got up at one point after, we took a quick break, and my hip, knee, and ankle all went out. And somehow I got it together and sucked it up, and I didn't complain about it, and I just limped my ass the rest of the way. But that night, you put the shelter house together. I got my bunkmate, Yobes, laundry number 59, I'm number 60. We still refer to each other as 59 and 60. I love the guy. I talked to him this past week as well. He saw me in all this pain. He's like, what's going on? And I told him, I blew this whole side of my body out, and I'm not right. My ankle was swollen and everything. Well, he went and told the senior drill instructor. So they sent me to the infirmary, and that's in the record. And that is the whole left side. And so the other injuries were both ankles, left and right, continuing on from there. So I have a really good case, backing up that these injuries led to my ankle issue. Boom. But when I got out, if you guys remember the story, I also got in a lot of trouble before getting out. And so they were kind of, and he said to me, he's reading my records, he's like, I'm reading this, and I can tell they tried to get you out. They're trying to railroad you. And in my records, when I talked to the doctor just before I decided to get out, it says right there, I didn't want to get out. He asked me. And I said, I don't want to. And he wrote that in the records. Everything looks really good for me. Now, here's the interesting, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it's interesting. I was dealing with this warrant officer. Again, it doesn't matter. But she was, pretty certain she was a lesbian. She looked really butch, this lady. And she was cool with me, but she didn't like me. And she made me sign this paper saying that I had a pre-existing condition, so I couldn't get any kind of medical benefits in the future or anything like that. Now, a lot of the veterans who watch this channel, thank you for being here, have pointed out that she couldn't do that. That was BS. Well, it turns out that's true. She wasn't supposed to do that. And I never had I had corrective shoes when I was a kid, and there was a few times when I was a kid where I twisted an ankle here and there, absolutely. Playing sports like anybody else would, but I never had anything really severe, and no surgeries or anything like that. So, and I passed. Again, I passed the physical for the Marine Corps, and I got into boot camp, and I graduated Paris Island, came out here for infantry school, so I had all the mountains out here, passed infantry school, security force Marine, and all that nonstop training, right? That's all you do. So clearly there was an issue. Also, as I've mentioned before, when I got to SEAL Beach, I was like 150 pounds with a 36-inch chest. And within 6 months or so, I was 185 pounds with a 48-inch chest, which is basically what I am now. I'm a little heavier than that, but pretty close to the same size. So my body changed rapidly so quick, it would make sense that I might run my PFT slower than normal, which is what sent me to the doctor. And he put my ankles on the protractors and said that my ankles are way beyond the accepted range of motion. And that's why he wanted to get me out. And then I took advantage of it. But my point of all of this, everything I'm saying is, if they're going to give me a disability benefit, Like, let's say it happens. I went for the hearing already with the tinnitus. Now it's the ankles. The next thing is the PTSD thing about all the bullshit that went down there. I guess I'll talk to a head shrinker about that. If this all comes through and they give me a rating, I think I have to go talk to the attorneys. They've got these military attorneys that will work for you, because talking to Dave with his back pain, would it be possible? This is crazy. I'm asking you guys. I don't think this is going to happen. I am not... I'm hopeful it would happen. It'd be pretty cool. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't see realistically how this would happen. But you could make a logical case that they made me sign this thing falsely. I always should have been able to get these benefits right from the time I got out in 87. Does that mean that they owe me benefits going all the way back to when I got out? Because that would be a hell of a chunk of change. So I'm just saying, we'll see how it shakes out. Not counting on that. Don't really think that'll happen. Would I want it to happen? Hell yeah. Absolutely. Crazy. Also, somebody had said at one point, and she was not a military person, she was a civilian nurse on the west side. She looked at my DD-214 because I went to the wrong place. I was supposed to have an appointment with somebody else. I went to the wrong door, and she goes, oh, you served less than 24 months. I don't think you can get medical benefits. Turns out, talked to my old drill instructor who works with the VA, donates his time. He said, that's bullshit. It's 180 days. 180 days of active duty, you qualify. That's what he's telling me. Again, if you are in this world, this business, if you work with the VA, tell me what you think. The doctor that I talked to about my ankles the other day said, yeah, you got it, no problem. Just take your DD-214, that's your separation paper for those of you that weren't in the military, and your ID, and go down to the VA and just make an appointment to see a doctor. I've been reluctant to do it, but I think I'm going to have to do it. Somebody else said in the comments, if they give me at least a 50% rating for disability, I automatically get full medical benefits. I don't know. That's what people are saying. I don't know. But if you know, or if you think you know, and I won't just believe you, I'll do my research. Go ahead and put in the comments. Let me know. Anyhow, maybe not a great video for you guys tonight. I don't want to keep talking about this. The only reason I talked to the TDS video and addressed the media and the lies and everything was because there was a good amount of the comments, most of them all positive. There was maybe just a half a dozen. But for me, that's enough for me to want to address it and snap those people out of it a little bit. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And I don't hate women. I love women. But, some of them just annoy me. That's just all that is. So everybody relax. That's it now. I'm done talking. I'm sweating. I'm going to go rinse off in a cool shower. I'm going to upload this video. I got to put dinner on. It's 5:35. I got to get that going. I got to get up 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. I got to be in the valley. Tomorrow I'm going to my friend Kirgy's house, and I'm making those 2 panel walls. That might take more than a day. And now she wants me to do a whole bunch of other projects. So we'll see how that goes. And one last thing. Phil, I'm doing the box for Phil for the kitchen door box set up for his Astro van. Typical Phil. When I need him to get me information right now, because I have the time to do it, he never gets back to me, and that happened Saturday. So Friday night, I sent him the video link. Let me know what you think. He didn't get back to me. I get up early Saturday morning. I wanted to go to the shop and work on it. I left him a voicemail. I sent him a text. I said, dude, did that look good to you? Because if he has a change, if he says, take the middle shelf out, I'm going to put bigger stuff. That's what I wanted to hear. Nothing. Not till 1 or 2 o'clock my time. Too late. My day's shot. I'm already doing something else now. Did he get back to me? Otherwise, I probably would have had the whole box, the box itself together and been working on it beyond that now. So I'm not going to get to that now till later this week. So Phil, if you're watching this, which I don't think Phil sits through these videos. I think he pretty much just watches my Astrovan content. But if you are watching, Phil, that's your friggin' fault. No. Not getting back to me in a time. I love you, man. I love all of you. You're good people. Those of you that are here that don't give me shit. Go away now. All right? Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Maybe you have the day off tomorrow because of the holiday weekend. I don't know. If you do, good for you. Thanks again for being here. Again, tell your friends. Pass it along. Come back often. And be good to one another. I'll catch you in the next one.